Hello and welcome to another episode of the Best You interview series. It's Gary here. Again, thank you very much as always for taking the time to tune in to this particular episode. And today I'm joined by writer, entrepreneur, employee development coach, philanthropist and advocate for women's empowerment, Alina Wilson, who is here to discuss her experience in and passion for thoughtful aging. Alina's life's work is shaped by one goal: to help women discover and embrace their true beauty, both inside and out. As a mother and grandmother, she has developed a profound understanding of the complexities of womanhood and the importance of self-discovery and self-acceptance. As a successful entrepreneur, she has mentored dozens of women and in 2007 founded Bridgeport Laser and Wellness Centre. Growing Bridgeport into what it is today has proved to be the ideal container for Alina's life skills as an employee development coach. She is also a dedicated philanthropist, serving on the board of directors for the Portland-based organisation Gather, Make, Shelter. Alina's book, Thoughtful Aging: Restoring Honour to the Aging Process, is dedicated to the woman who longs to love her reflection and to break free from shame and judgment. Such a profound way to say it. Alina, thank you very, very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's absolutely my pleasure, for sure. So, a very wide and varied background and journey that you've had. So let's start with the journey thus far. Specifically, what sparked your passion for helping women age in a more thoughtful, intentional, and, if I could say, kind way to themselves?
You know, I've always had a passion for fashion and industry and beauty, just going back to a very young age. And so when my former husband, who was a family practice physician, came to me in 2006 and said, "Hey, the medical system is broken and I really want to open a cash pay aesthetics practice," I was all about that because I love working with women and I love working in beauty. And I saw a real opportunity to honestly, selfishly explore this industry from a personal standpoint. Once the clinic got up and running, I quickly realized that we as women collectively, for as strong as we are and as smart as we still are living with these gaps that have been um, societally determined for us, such as youthfulness equates to beauty. We lose relevance as we age. Aging is a difficult process. All of these narratives that we've been taught as women, I really found no truth in those once I got into these beautiful one-on-one conversations with women and
Yeah.
realized the gap really is in being able to see each other's beauty, but not see our own. And that's really
Yes.
what got the ball rolling for me when I recognized that we've got a lot of work to do here, and what is holding us back. And what's holding us back is this narrative that anti-aging is attainable and something to be achieved. And it's inherent in the word itself, anti. It's
Yeah.
not attainable. And so why are we chasing this thing that we're never going to get? And what's the alternative to that? And that was really the genesis of this idea for thoughtful aging and restoring honor to the aging process.
Yeah, it's so fascinating for something, if I could say, so common. Everyone is aging every single day. We are aging as we're recording this
Mm.
podcast. To have such a narrative, as you say, such a stigma around that, where do you think it came from? In terms of youthfulness, equates to beauty, and, aging is something that's somewhat frowned upon, not spoken about, not celebrated, things like that. Who created that narrative? How did it come about that it just became somewhat accepted within society, do you think?
I think life experience determines all of the things that we believe about ourselves and about others. And I know in other cultures, in Eastern cultures, aging is viewed a lot differently. It's honored and it's revered, and yet here we are. Um, I think responding to what real life experience has told us. When you have ageism at work, the older you get, the less relevant you feel, and then you internalize that. When you have, you're in a marriage situation as a woman, your husband leaves you for a woman 20, 30 years younger than you. That's a real life experience, and it's really difficult in those situations to not internalize that as a deficit. And then you've got all of the messaging that tells us that youthfulness equates to beauty. Every commercial, every TV ad promoting anti-aging. It's an actual industry. And then there's things like the American Academy of Anti-Aging, making it seem legitimate, like it's a thing that we're supposed to be pursuing. And what most people don't realize is that's not even a board certified academy. It's just two, I'm sure, very intelligent older white men who woke up one day and said, let's do this thing, and get a lot of money from doctors to be part of it. And so doctors pay into being part of this Academy of Anti-Aging. And I'm sure that there's a lot of really relevant things that happen within that, but there's no board certification for that or legitimacy to that other than you're joining a club. So, how many clubs do we have to join to feel like we are aging well or doing something to benefit ourselves? And the truth of the matter is, if we could just shift our medical system toward recognizing that as we age, we have options. If you go to your doctor and they say, oh, hormones, yep, sorry, that's just getting older. Living in the age of information technology, it has advantages and disadvantages. Of course, now we can compare ourselves to all of these ideals every single moment of the day if we choose to pick up the phone and open the app and do that. But at the same time, we can use all of that energy to self-educate and realize that, oh my goodness, we have options. We don't have to buy this narrative any longer.
So powerful. One of the things you said earlier there, Alina, was in some cultures it's celebrated in terms of aging, other cultures not so much. And it made me think of, I teach at a local university here in Calgary, and the undergraduate class I teach, it's basically to help prepare them for their career. And I try to impart upon them, there's the curriculum part, and then there's Gary's sprinkling of real life. And one of the things that I say to them, and it's not just in class, it's in other platforms that I have to be able to chat to people, is I don't understand why, as human beings, for the most part, we don't appreciate and celebrate where we are today. We're always grasping or grabbing for something that's sure to come in the future, and or celebrating what has already gone past, and rather than saying, hey, and in the context of this is, you're a new person in the organization, you don't know where the washrooms are, you don't know where the photocopier is, depending on the type and style of job you've got. And some people get really stressed out about that, and you don't understand the acronyms and the terminology and the processes and systems. Why not celebrate that to the point where you're saying, I'm the newbie, I don't know where I'm at right now, and really lean into it. And I really resonate with that in terms of what you said there, enjoying the age that you are, looking at your past experiences, with fondness and gratitude for the journey that you've been on thus far, and looking forward to experiencing the various things that you're going to experience as you're going forward as well. Like, do you see with the people that you work with that there are struggles with the ability to say, it's kind of cool that I made it to 55 years old and I have all my faculties and I have a healthy family and I'm relatively, well put together, and I feel like, is there a like not a convincing, that wouldn't be a coach like thing to do, but is there an education that you have to do with certain clients to say, look at what you have?
Yes, there is. And I think what you're talking about is returning to the present moment.
Yes.
And it's, if we're always looking back or we're always reaching forward, then we're missing gratitude for where we are and how we've landed in this very moment, in this space. And There's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to change your appearance or just have a little more influence on how you age. I highly encourage that, but my encouragement comes from the perspective shift of doing it from a place of want rather than a place of need.
Mhm.
And that requires a certain integration of self, which in turn requires a certain amount of vulnerability and transparency with oneself.
Mhm.
All of us have things in our past that have influenced us, things that we're proud of, things that we're not so proud of. But yet here we are still standing and breathing, right?
Yeah.
And if we can look back on those younger versions of ourselves with compassion and gratitude and acceptance, then we can begin to look forward and become the person that we want to be by choice rather than not by reaction, which is a lot of us live by reaction. Something happens and we react
Yeah.
rather than pausing and taking a moment and making a conscious decision to either step forward or step back. And the aging process is very similar. If you wake up and you see a wrinkle, are you going to immediately call your doctor and go get a wrinkle treatment?
Mhm.
Or are you going to think about it and allow yourself to explore with curiosity, okay, where did that come from? Was
Yeah.
it from laughing or smiling or the difficult situation that let life I've just lived for the past year with a breakup or a divorce, really taking time to honor ourselves as we age and then choosing how we want to move forward in that aging.
Yeah, I love what you said there in terms of taking taking a moment to think about it, to try and retrace the steps of what got to that point, to see if you're actually going to think about it differently rather than, oh my word, there is a wrinkle there, this will never do, to I have laughed so much in the last 18 months. Something was going to give at some point. This is a badge of honor, or whatever other frame of reference that people could use. Is that a practice that you would recommend that women do, or people in general would do if and when they have that moment of potential reaction?
I think that's a vital component of growth
Yeah.
because when you can approach aging that way or your appearance that way, you're doing it from a very mindful and grounded space,
Yeah.
and that gives you autonomy. That's not a narrative or a society or commercial messaging telling you what to do.
Yeah.
That's you choosing what to do, and there's a certain confidence that comes with that, right?
Yeah.
In knowing that I did this thing. I made this decision to have this wrinkle treatment, and I'm not ashamed of it because I did it by choice.
Yeah.
It's it's what allows us to really step into a fuller sense of being because the decisions that we're making, whether we like it or not, are leading us somewhere. If
Yeah.
we're not consciously choosing where we're going, it's not that you're not going to end up somewhere. You're still going to end up somewhere. It's just, it might not be where you want to end up.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan of when a woman comes into the clinic and they say, I need to get rid of this and I don't like that. We say to them, okay, well, what's your best feature? Tell me what you do like. What do you like from, about this or what you're presenting today? Maybe they have sparkly eyes, or maybe they have good skin,
Yeah.
or maybe they like the way that their overall health and well-being is being managed through exercise and diet. I feel good on some days and not on others. We all have those days, but reframing and refocusing on what we like and appreciate helps us to take a step back from what seems like maybe a catastrophe or a
Mhm.
crisis.
Yeah, adds perspective.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In preparation for chatting today, I was thinking about, I can't even remember what sparked it from our conversation we had before we recorded. And it was along the lines of, I wonder if there is anyone in the history of humankind who has looked in the mirror and been 100% happy with absolutely everything that they've seen. Now, I imagine there's a lot of vanity involved there, and there would be a lot of vain people that would be kind of, quite pleased with what's staring back at
Mm-hmm.
them. But if they were to say, stand fully naked in front of a mirror and have a look, regardless of what age, what fitness level, what work you've done with and for yourself to get to that spot, I wonder if there's anyone that says I am 100% happy, tip to toe, of everything that's there, or even if the most quote unquote beautiful, perfectly put together person looks and says, "Oh, I wish my arms weren't as long. I wish my shoulders weren't as broad. I wish, I had a wee bit more tonality to my chin or my cheekbone or something like that." Like when you're working with clients and doing exactly what you described there, Alina, and saying, "Tell me something you like about yourself." Do you feel that, what would you say, reality shift or that emotional shift where they're kind of like, I didn't think I was going to be talking about that. I just want to talk about this one particular thing. And then it gives them a different experience in terms of what the whole experience is likely to be.
Yes, 100%. We are problem solvers by nature. Human beings in general, I think, are problem solvers by nature. And a lot of times if we're not presented with an active problem to solve, we find one. And
Yeah,
that could be in not liking, a lot of times it presents as not liking the way we look or an aspect of how we look. A lot of times it's how we feel. We base a lot of our decisions and our emotions on how we feel. We have women coming into the clinic who say, I just want to feel, to look as young as I feel on the inside, right?
right.
And so they're searching for a return to self.
Yeah,
Um, and the Greek root of the word beauty is actually kaline or calling. It's a calling back to yourself. And I really firmly believe that we keep returning to this issue of beauty as a society over and over again, because what we're really attempting to do is to return to self
yeah.
in a way that allows us to be able to appreciate the beautiful, unique human beings that we are.
Yeah, so beautifully put. So beautifully put. What would you say are like the true sources of beauty that women should embrace as they are aging? Is it like a set system? I'm assuming there would be nuances depending on the individual, but are there key facets that you would help coach and educate women on as you deal with them at any point in their life as they're aging?
Yes, it starts with choice. I mean, again, when I came up with the idea of thoughtful aging, it was a lovely idea and fun to think about, but I really wanted to distill it down into actionable steps and something that became attainable for women. And so in that, I created 5 principles that women can embrace and follow if they choose to. And the number one principle, the first principle, is cultivating a growth mindset. You have to want to change and you have to want to grow to believe it's possible. And the next step beyond that would be embracing curiosity. And so, again, you know, if you find yourself being afraid to wear a red lipstick, why? Ask yourself why. Is it because somebody told me that only certain types of people wear red lipstick? Is it because I've never tried it? Is it because I feel like it's not me?
Yeah,
And embracing curiosity in a way that allows you expansion of self. You're looking back and you're asking questions about decisions you've made and why you made them that way. That can open up a whole lot of emotion around guilt or shame, um, feeling like we need to be suppressed or to hide.
yeah.
And so then the next logical step for me in this formula became practicing self acceptance and compassion. And again, going back to really integrating our past into our present so that we can have a more impactful future from a place of choice and autonomy and full integration.
Yeah.
And so beyond that, then staying mindful and grounded, because those thoughts and feelings from the past and things that present themselves, and they're not all negative, but when they do, they really want to hijack our amygdala and take over our brain and say,
Yeah,
no, we're going to go back down this road because this is what's familiar. And
yeah,
so being able to pull back from that and stay mindful and grounded then allows us to be proactive and responsible for how we age.
yeah. I love that. It's so, as a coach myself, it's so universal. A lot of those things, the ability to be able to really truly see, you can apply it to aging. Absolutely, you have done that very successfully. But in any perceived challenging experience in someone's life, using those five key components of the growth mindset, of the curiosity, the self-compassion, the mindfulness and groundedness, and then the proactive and responsible. It's simple to comprehend, difficult to apply. Sometimes, as you say, when the mind goes a wandering to, you know what, it's much easier if I just complain about this thing, or if I get stressed out about this, or if I just get distracted and go do something else that's not giving me the opportunity to live within myself. So one thing I was really looking forward to chatting to you about was very, very powerful for me when we were chatting prior to recording, is a very, very powerful exercise that you do with your clients, where you ask them to make a list of the things that they love. Can you tell us more about this?
Hmm. Yeah. So one of the questions that I ask readers in the book and people that I work with is, if I asked you to name all of the things that you love, how long would it take you to name yourself? So many times we set ourselves aside, and there are times in life when that's called for. When you have small children, when you have responsibilities, you do need to step aside for a moment. But it becomes quickly a lifestyle for women, I think, where they just then habitually set themselves aside and do everything for others without really taking care of themselves in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
There was a period in my life where I couldn't even make eye contact with myself in the mirror. It was too painful and
Really?
too, I felt, and it was just me. Like it wasn't, it was just me not being able to be transparent and vulnerable with who I saw in the mirror, with my own reflection. I had married young. I was raised in a very conservative Christian household, so I did all of the things I wasn't supposed to do. And in that, there was this layer of religious guilt and shame that I had carried with me. Even though I appeared very confident on the outside
Yeah.
and was raising three children on my own from a very young age in a marriage that didn't last, working two jobs and three jobs, I'd been caught up in a cycle of survival.
Yeah.
I had never, until the age of 30, 29 or 30, really ever stopped to look at myself in the mirror, in my own reflection. One day I did, and I realized I couldn't do it. I couldn't look at myself eye to eye for more than a second or two at a time.
Yeah.
It hurt so bad because I didn't know the girl standing, in the mirror looking back at me. I didn't know her.
Yeah.
There was this part of me at that age that was awakening, that really, really wanted to understand how I had gotten to the point in life where I had, and all of the things that I was carrying and all of the responsibilities. And really, when I look back at that time now, what was happening in me was this shift of going from doing to being. All I ever knew how to do was accomplish things and take care of tasks and basically survive. I really didn't know how to be the person in my own skin in the body that I was gifted.
Yeah.
And I cried and I cried and I made myself do it. I stood there, and it was probably 2 hours of just forcing myself to go back to the mirror and maintain eye contact for longer periods of time until I got to the point where it was like peeling back layers of an onion. I didn't
Yeah.
even know what I was discovering. I just knew that a shift was happening,
Yeah.
and it hurt, and it was cathartic, and it was liberating all at the same time. And that was transformative for me in being able to wash windows and unlock doors inside that I really hadn't had the courage to touch before. And so, yes, in the book, I strongly encourage readers in one of the chapters to undergo a mirror exercise. And I walk them through the different stages of it, because it's really, really important when you want to make a change in your life that you start with yourself,
Yeah.
and that you return to a place of self-acceptance and compassion before you decide to undertake any transformative internal change.
Yeah, so powerful. And having experienced it yourself, I'm sure the words on the page would be absolutely in tune with you and you know possibly what you wanted to say to your younger self, but certainly what
Mm,
you want to impart to the readers as well. It's not some you know, there's nothing wrong with this either, but not some
mhm.
academic saying, here's some research I've conducted, this is what you should do. You've gained from the painful experience, which has given you opportunity to be able to talk about it, you know, both in the book and through platforms like that too. You know, it's so interesting, Elena. When I was probably late 30s, 40, something like that, I had a semi-similar exercise, a semi-similar experience, I should say, where I tried to put more intention into my life. I've always been busy, similar to your exact example. It was at the time, oh, I can't even remember now, but that would be, you know, my son was probably about 4 or 5 years old, something like that. He's 15 now, actually, very, very close to being 16. And at the time, busy, just busy doing stuff, you know, single parenting and things. And I made a point literally of looking at myself in the mirror and saying, you need to create intention because if you, and I'm saying, I didn't say this out loud, I said it inside, because if you don't pay attention, you're going to look up one day in the mirror, you're going to be 55 to 60 years old, and you're going to wonder what happened to these
Mhm.
years because I was a human doing exactly as you said. I wasn't a
Yes.
human being. And while I haven't stopped with the busyness of the various things that I'm involved in with my life, there are much more, you know, intentional pauses to think about what I'm doing. Is it still the right thing? Does it serve what I'm trying to serve at that particular time? How am I doing? What am I grateful for? You know, expressing gratitude and giving myself that compassion that we talked about earlier. You know, to be able to say, not exactly as you hoped it was going to be, but hey, we're still here. We have an opportunity to course correct and do some stuff later. So to hear that from someone who is an expert in it, that in some way I kind of got it right, you know, all those years ago, it was quite profound, you know, and there was nothing really that spurred it on that particular day. I just thought it's been very, very quick to get to 40. And if it's going to be the same
Yes.
sort of light speed to get to 55, 60 and beyond, I need some sort of grounding to
Yes.
say, just breathe. Don't forget why you're doing what you're doing. Make sure what you're doing is actually going to serve the purpose you hope it's going to serve. And if not, do something about that as you move forward. And that's really helped me with my ability to be able to move forward with clarity, quite honestly.
I love that. My question about that is, did you find yourself wanting to complicate that at all? Meaning, a lot of times and I love integration, it's my favorite word.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we set out with intention and integration of past to present so that we can create a future, we can get stuck in our heads sometimes. And I'm speaking from personal experience, like, oh, I'm going to be intentional today. And then
Yeah.
I all of a sudden throw a bunch of stuff on my schedule so that I can intentionally do things
Yeah. Yeah.
outside of intention. I don't know. Like I wonder about that sometimes. Again, going back to problem solving, can intention just live in the quiet space? I don't know.
I would hope so. And actually, that's such a fascinating. I'll answer your question in a second, but just to go back to the point of you say I'm going to be intentional today, and then you add things to your list so you can check them off to say showed you, did it, you know. And in the moment, I think it was probably with the benefit of hindsight. I don't I don't recall there being a material change either way, but it was truly the beginning of what I would call addition by subtraction. Really saying,
Mm,
you know, there are things that there are things that I do, there are things that I like to do, there are things that I really like to do, and there are things that I love to do. And that was really the beginning of saying, what are each of these things? What bucket are they in? Because I can then say, you just like to do this. So one, does it need to be you that does it? What does it need to be done? Does it need to be you that does it? What would happen if it wasn't you? So it gave me a little bit more of the early stages of grounding to say I need to start removing things to my life to add to a more fuller experience for me, so then therefore the subtraction or addition by subtraction, I should say. So it was nothing materially changed that day other than I literally remember it happening, and I don't have a great memory in general terms, but I vividly remember, and it didn't come from anywhere. I literally just get out the shower. I had some music on in the background, and I'm just thinking, this is kind of cool. And it was a Saturday morning, and I think I was getting ready to go out and maybe have a couple of beers with a friend or something like that. And then I just it seemed to be the perfect moment for me, not under duress, where my subconscious said, "Hey, listen, while I have you, here's something you might want to think about." And I paid attention, and it wasn't like a long, profound exercise. It was just kind of, whoa, okay, right, yes, of course, that makes sense. How do I do that? We don't need to figure it out right now, but just keep this in mind. And not many days go by where I don't have a fleeting thought of that grounding exercise that came to me just all those years ago.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I think that's very impactful, and I've never heard the addition by subtraction before, and that makes so much sense to my logical brain because I
Yeah.
want things to be linear, but they're not. But
No.
I really like that. And I would say that you know, I've heard it said before, what you seek is what you see. And so when we allow ourselves those moments of pause to be able to receive that information, I think it's really important going forward to trust that we will always have those moments
Yeah.
where we receive information. It's just a matter of, are we paying attention?
Yeah.
Because there's no individual on this planet who is being kept from awareness
Yeah.
and information. All of us have access to it at varying frequencies, right? And so when we
Yeah.
can elevate our frequency to the point where we're open to it, if what we seek is what we see, they will flood into us at the right time in the right space.
Yeah. Completely agree. And back to the academic experience I was chatting about earlier, I say a version much less eloquent than you just said there of that to say you already have the data. You
Mm-hmm.
already have the information. It's all around you all day, every day. And I think I'm going to add the word frequency to that because I think that would be really meaningful for the next cohort to be able to say, you get to choose. You don't have to go seeking or searching for this. If you just pay a different type and style of attention, you will have that information about how you act, how you react, how you want to be in a moment versus how you actually are in a moment. And you have information. My line that I use is, you now have information you didn't have before. What are you going to do about it? And
Yes.
and some people will just kind of say, you know what, I'm not ready yet. I acknowledge the fact that it's there. I'm just going to push it down. I'm just going to leave it for a wee bit. And other people will kind of get curious and say, tell me a bit more. And some other people will dive in and they will say, it feels like the right type and style of conversation to be having right now. I'm ready. I would, maybe there's the angst of, oh, why didn't I know this 10 years ago? It wasn't the right time or opportunity or frequency to have that conversation to make it as impactful as it's going to be now. Embrace it, enjoy it, be thankful for it, do something with it, and move
And
on.
like you just said, when you got your moment of awareness, you didn't know what to do or what to do with it. You just knew, okay, now it's here.
Yeah,
And you gave it space to reveal what that meant to you,
yeah,
was revealed to you in the following days and obviously months and years now too.
yeah, yeah. And I felt so grateful, and it didn't alter my mood in any way. I was kind of like, cool, off I go. The music was still on, but I knew in the moment that it was indeed a moment. And just you have those that now and again some things can be a bit more, if you could say, incidental, forgettable, where you're in the moment, you're appreciating it and you're absorbing it and you're being present, but it doesn't last or live with you forever. That wasn't its intention at that time. This one, I knew it was a biggie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I feel so blessed to actually have the conversation with you today about that, because I haven't really talked to many people about that. I've talked about it in casual conversation, and it doesn't land really. People are kind of like, cool, okay, if you like. So in terms of back to your typical clientele, which is of course is women. How can women proactively manage their hormonal health to enhance their well-being as they age? You mentioned hormones earlier, on a visit to the doctor, and the doctor can in some way doesn't really have enough skills or experience or potentially desire to be able to manage what's actually happening there. Is there a different level, type, and style of ownership that women can take as they're getting older to be able to have an educated conversation with a medical practitioner if and when it gets to that point? Is that the main basis of the book, to prepare women for those eventualities?
We do. Thank you for asking about this. It's such a big ball of yarn, this hormone thing, um, because I feel like as women, we're just out here on this island by ourselves, fighting against an archaic system, who's relying on a Women's Health Initiative report from decades ago that wasn't even accurate when it came out. Medical doctors in their training have at most 3 hours of dedicated training to women's hormones. Yet here we are
Wow.
as women, and it changes our entire lives when we hit these ages. So
Yeah.
I found that there are different groups of women when it comes to hormones. The somewhat younger groups who are aware of it, but really in denial about it. The women who are just beginning to feel the struggle, the tiredness, the mental fog, and they're thinking it's their kids or their work or their stress. And then there's the women who want to do something about it but don't know quite what to do.
Yeah.
And then there's the women who are like, oh, I don't need hormones anymore. I'm over it.
Yeah.
Boy, so first thing we have to do as women is educate ourselves. And so the last part of my book, I actually hadn't intended on putting these two chapters in, but I feel like it's so important to the aging process for women that we really, really have to pay attention to this. And again, make our decisions, informed decisions from a place of choice. And so I've included information. One of the best things that women can do from age 20 on is get a baseline hormone panel done during every decade.
Right.
Because the day is coming where hormones will significantly change your life, or rather, the lack of hormones will significantly change your life. It doesn't happen always for every woman, it's typically anywhere from 45 to 60.
Yeah.
I had a hormone deficiency at age 35, but I didn't know it because
Right.
I was raising children and starting a business and managing a marriage. And I just thought that's life because so many doctors will just tell you, well, that's just life.
Mm.
But is it though? So that's when we go back to our baseline hormone panel to see what's changed from age 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50.
Yeah.
There's also a language that hasn't been developed yet, and we as women collectively have a responsibility to create this language for our medical providers. And what that looks like is in reclaiming our autonomy in aging and not outsourcing this to doctors who really don't understand us and women as women in general. And I've been on both sides of it. I've been on the provider side of it where I have more of an understanding, and on the patient side of it where I'm told, well, stop spending so much time on the internet, you're fine. Yeah, but I'm
Wow.
not fine.
Yeah.
But so, how to recognize red flags in your doctor, how to build a team of care providers around you that can help you age the way that you intend to age and want to age, self-educating, what does that look like? Where do we go for resources? And to kind of get women started, I've created a free aging assessment which they can access at thoughtfulagingassessment.com. Basically, it's just a fun little test that will help point you in the right direction as to what type of a care team will work best for you. Are you more natural medicine, Eastern medicine? Do you like the blend of Eastern and Western medicine? Do you want science-based approach? Who are those providers and what titles do they hold? And what questions do you ask when you get in front of them to see if they're even the right provider for you? So all of this takes time, but it is so worth the effort because, again, we don't need to be outsourcing this aging process to people who don't understand us. We can invite them to participate in the aging plan. I mean, for heaven's sake, anybody who has a baby knows that you have a labor and delivery plan. You don't just show up at the hospital and say, do whatever you want. I'm going to listen to everything you tell me. No, we become experts on our own bodies for the sake of our children. Why aren't we doing the same for aging? We need to become experts in aging for the sake of this younger generation coming behind us.
I'm so glad you mentioned the care team, because it was a new concept to me when we chatted previously to kind of thinking about the couple of things. One would be the main parts or bodies of the supports that you need at various points in your life as you move forward with intention to give yourself what you need. But the most important part for me was you don't have to do this alone. There are other resources, supports and systems out there that can give you that opportunity based on research, based on experiences, based on, the way that society is today and such. And so I'd love to, if you could just spend a couple of minutes talking through the not the typical care team, but the premise behind the care team and why every woman should have a care team as they thoughtfully age.
Absolutely. So for me, I have a medical doctor who I go to when I have science-based questions. Western medical doctor, I go to him when I want to know about the muscle that I tore in my left calf walking through the airport. That's who I'm going to go to. I'm not going to go to my OB, but I'm going to go to my OB when I want to talk about things like if I'm exploring birth control or if I want to get, cancer screening. She's gonna take care of me for all of those things. I go to my naturopath when I find myself struggling to get out of bed because I'm too tired and I'm not sleeping well. I'm gonna go to her and I'm gonna say, oh boy, what's shifted maybe where I need to take a look at things? Is my testosterone level dropped? Am I getting enough progesterone at nighttime now? Do I need supplements? Do I need to increase my thyroid? Is my thyroid functioning? And that's, for me, I go to a chiropractor because if my body is out of balance, I'm out of balance. And I'm not going to these people all the time. I know that cost is a factor, and it is for me and it is for everybody. But you have relationships with these people so that they're there when you need them. You know who to call because you've met them, you trust them. They've provided care for you. And when you need to add somebody new in, you make sure that they're all cool with working together. My medical doctor is cool with my naturopath. He doesn't think she's a quack. My naturopath has my medical doctor's numbers so that they can talk about me if they need to. They both have permission. They all have permission to talk about me to each other. And that's important to me. They have to be willing to collaborate. It's a team. We're not individual players. This is a team here. And I'm paying them to do this. So it's not like they're doing this out of charity. Y'all are working for me. And this is how I want the team to work. I'm in charge, right? But I also don't abuse this. And I also only call them when I need them. And I only ask for what I need. And I trust them to tell me the things and answer the questions that I don't know how to ask.
And it's so great. I was jotting some notes down there. I think it's such a powerful topic because I imagine if someone's saying, I wouldn't even know where to start to build a team, look at what you've done thus far. You probably have the key foundational elements there already. and it's more, I know I keep using the word intention today, it's more intentionally connecting the dots with each of them to say, I would like you to communicate with each other. There might be something I'm missing. You get a chance to take a step back or a half step back and look and say, I actually don't have anyone who helps me with my nutrition or who helps me with my physical ailments, in terms of physiotherapy or chiropractic services or things like that. The information's there. You now have information you didn't have before. What are you going to do about that? And as you said, you're not drawing on these resources every single day. You just know they're there and they will function as a team when you need to call upon them as well. So hopefully it doesn't sound too onerous, or if you haven't built a care team already that you're thinking, I have no idea where to start and I've nowhere to go from here. I've missed the boat and it's too late. You probably have the key elements in place already.
I think so. I agree with that. And you just start with one,
Mm.
and then you can ask that provider for references, for other providers, people
Yeah,
that they know that they like to work with. And it can take, this is not just something that happens immediately. This is once you begin the process of assembling a care team,
yeah,
as health changes, your needs change. But this is something that can take a year. You
yeah,
know how hard it is to get into. Well, you're in Canada, so
yeah,
I've waited. I'm getting a new OB doctor, gynecologist.
yeah,
I have waited 6 months to get on her books,
yeah.
right? I'm going to her because she was personally recommended by two friends of mine.
Mm.
And I read about her online and I read her reviews and I know her biography and I know her CV because I looked it up.
Yeah,
And I feel like she's going to be really aligned with my vision for aging.
yeah.
So I waited 6 months to see her.
And that's why you've probably had to wait 6 months because of
Yes.
the impressive credentials and experience and past successes that she's enjoyed, that she's earned as well. This has been such an interesting, enlightening, rich conversation, Alina. I've just absolutely loved it. And as you know, this is called the Best You podcast, and I take this opportunity to ask every guest, what's one regular practice that you employ that gives you the best opportunity to be the best version of yourself on a given day?
Gratitude. Just when we spin out and we can't seem to find that lifeline again,
Yeah,
I jump right back into gratitude, and it could be something as simple as looking out the window at the blue sky.
yeah,
I'm grateful for the sun. I'm grateful that there's a flower over there growing and I'm not doing anything about it and life is still going on around me, and just really jumping back into that space of gratitude helps me on a day-to-day basis,
yeah,
when I'm feeling a little less than compassionate.
yeah. I love it. I love it. Before I let you go, where can people find out more about you?
ThoughtfulAgingBook.com. There's an email newsletter that you can sign up for. You can take the Thoughtful Aging assessment from that page. You can order the book from that page. I do quarterly women's retreat at a private location in Oregon. And so there's a wait list for that if they want to email in and join a wait list. I do speaking engagements as well and lead retreats. So also a keynote speaker. I love this topic. I love what I do. And I, more than anything, love helping women.
I can tell it absolutely shines through. It absolutely
Thank
shines
you.
through. Alina, thank you very, very much for taking the time to come on the show today. I absolutely loved the conversation.
It was my pleasure. It was so great to chat with you again.